Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Art Show with Nancy and Lisa. You know we love our time with the Tucson Dude. Now, the Tucson Dude is Lance Laber. He is the executive director of DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun, which is a 10-acre historic landmark. It's right in the foothills of the Santa Catalina Mountains in beautiful Tucson, Arizona. Boy, do we miss our home of Tucson, and we will be there in spring next year. We'll be there in the fall of next year. But right now, today, we're going to find out what is happening for winter at DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun. You know, what's really unique about this, it's all about Ted DeGrazia. He is known as the most reproduced artist in the world. He's known for his Southwest art. And the gallery was built by him and his friends back in the 60s. It opened in 1965, and it's home to over 15,000 originals of his art, including oil paintings, watercolors, ceramics, and sculptures. And so when you visit, you can see all 6 permanent collections and then some of the rotating exhibits that they change out throughout the year. So I encourage you to go to their website, DeGrazia.org. But, hey, welcome back, Tucson Dude. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's always fun to have the Tucson Dude on the show. You know, and we think about winter in Tucson, so it's you know, the best weather on the planet, right? Compared to the rest of the country.
Well, it's better than Buffalo.
Yeah. No. Everybody's dodging snow. I mean, we get snow in Tucson once in a while, which is magical, but really, Tucson at this
like
time
Buffalo.
of year. Yeah, Tucson is. Hey, did Ted DeGrazia ever do paintings of snow?
You know, I can't think of one offhand, but
because it's rare.
I'll have to look. It may be there. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, some of my favorite work that he has done are the Christmas cards and the Christmas art, where like roadrunners are right, you know, have like little figures on them. Like Christmas, he really got into Christmas. It was fun, like Christmas in the desert.
Yeah. He also liked to sell Christmas cards, so he did a lot of those. Yeah.
Well, Ted DeGrazia, I think, is probably one of the most entrepreneurial artists in history.
Yeah, because you don't find that very often, because you have artist brain and then you have business brain. That's a rare combination. Sorry.
Yeah, he had both. He had business brain, and he had marketing brain, and he had artist brain. He had it all.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
Yeah, that's amazing, actually.
You know, I always want to go back to the gallery itself, because it's you know, one thing to also see Ted DeGrazia's, you know, permanent collections and the rotating exhibits, and we can talk about what people can see this winter, but also just looking at the architecture of the gallery, because you've got the actual gallery, you've got his house where he lived with Marion DeGrazia, is also an amazing artist. You've got the little gallery where right now there's artists in there, visiting artists that come throughout the winter. And you've also got the graveyard area, and you've got the mission. So does it get busy for you this time of year of people coming to the mission?
You know what? It's starting to pick up. Some of the snowbirds, mostly those guys from Buffalo who are escaping 7 feet of snow. They're all starting to head out here. So you know, things are picking up, and we're getting ready for our hopefully busy winter season.
And then can you give everybody a little overview of the gallery, how he built it, like who his friends were, because he decided, hey, because he moved around a little bit with galleries, right? Didn't he have a gallery downtown?
Well, yeah, he had a gallery towards the middle of town, but the city started to encroach on him, and so he went up to the foothills of the Catalina Mountains, and he bought 10 acres up there, and he started building in around 1949, 1950. He built a little church to give thanks when you become a landowner in Mexico. It's a tradition that you build a little church to give thanks. And he did that, and then he built his home, and he built a little gallery where he could work and sell his art. And then in around 1959, he started building this giant 16,000 square foot main gallery. And he had his Yaqui friends, his Indian friends, the Tohono O'odham friends help him. And, he had a crew of 15 or 20 guys. Wasn't ever sure who was going to show up, who got drunk the night before. But, over time, they put it together, and it's really one of the most spectacular one-man galleries you'll ever see anywhere in the world. It's just really a special place.
And the adobe, I mean, that's the other thing. It's different. I mean, you think about adobe and you think like Santa Fe, New Mexico, but it's still different than what Santa Fe does, just the whole shape of it. And then the inside with the cactus, the cholla cactus floors. That's amazing.
Yeah, he just used whatever he could find out in the desert. He used just all the materials. He used the prickly pear skeleton. He used cholla cactus skeleton. He used just about everything he could find out in the desert.
Wow. And so right now what's so cool about the exhibits that you have, the ones that are rotating right now all will change out January 25th, so everybody stay tuned for the next episode for what's coming in February, right? But right now, when we think about the holiday season, one of them is DeGrazia's Processions. So these are all like ceremonial processions of the locals, Native American and Hispanic communities, right, that he was so close to.
Yeah, I mean, there's funeral processions, there's Easter processions, there's processions down in Mexico. It's interesting. It's a nice exhibit. I don't think offhand it's been before. This is probably the first time it's been shown. In all the years. So
wow,
that is a unique exhibit. And people are liking it.
Cool. Well, what's interesting too is like you guys are showing that what he painted, things like the candlelight processions, which are a big deal, La Posada processions, children's La Posada processions, which kind of really goes with this, season, but also funeral processions. That's interesting that he would do that, but that really kind of goes with the Mexican culture, doesn't it? With the Day of the Dead.
Well, he did a funeral procession of Father Kino. Father Kino was a priest that came from Spain that established missions in southern Arizona and northern Sonora, Mexico. And there's some just regular funeral processions. There's some upbeat processions. It's not all funerals, but there's just a lot of people carrying other people on their heads. That's what it is.
Nice. So, again, before the season, go check it out. The other part that I think is interesting, going back to his ties to the indigenous people of the land, is Rock Talk, the prehistoric art of Ted DeGrazia. And this is really interesting because he's like, he's painting the petroglyphs and the pictographs, right?
Pretty much. It's like cave art, and a lot of it, most of it's done on ceramic plates. So we have plates hanging from the walls. We have some tables too that he did, some really beautiful primitive tables. I'm not sure if that's the word primitive, but it's all cave art. It's all, bowls and the things that you would see in France, in the caves in France and Spain and wherever these caves are. And they're very interesting. He was really good at it.
That's cool.
I know he went to Mexico and he studied under, Orozco and Diego Rivera. But did he get a chance to go to Europe? I mean, just even for his own family roots back in Italy.
DeGrazia they were living in Morenci, Arizona. That's where he was born, was the little copper mining town of Morenci. And when he was 5 or 6, the mine closed, and they did go back to Italy. So he was back in Italy and in Europe for till he was 15.
Oh, wow.
And when he came back to the mine reopened, and the family came back to go to Morenci to work in the mine, and he had forgotten how to speak English. So he had to go sit down with the little kids again in first grade and learn how to speak English all over again. But he did spend time in Europe. Yes, he did.
Wow, that's amazing. I wonder if, when you're in Italy, you've got to think of Leonardo da Vinci, right? I wonder if he influenced him, being in Italy and seeing, because the arts flourished in Europe so heavy,
Sure.
And there was such an appreciation. And I wonder about Da Vinci, because we always talk about DeGrazia being a Renaissance man, and that's who Da Vinci was. He was, and then you think about the religious side too, and I mean the Da Vinci Code, DeGrazia style. Like I think right now, if DeGrazia was alive, he would write the Da Vinci Code his way, in like the Arizona way with Father Kino in it. Because he wrote that book on Father Kino that I still trip out on that. I think about this, every time there's anything to do with, Padre Kino, and how he wrote it was like he put himself like as Padre Kino, like but he wasn't, but he was. Like if you read this, you'll see what I mean. It's kind of like a fantasy fiction based on reality. He was so creative. Like his writing,
you know what?
He was amazing.
He loved Father Kino. He understood Kino was kind to the Indians and how he treated them. He treated them with respect, which wasn't something that the Spanish did with the Native Americans and the Native Mexican population. I mean, they went with the gun and said, you know what, you convert or we're going to shoot you. And Father Kino didn't do that. So DeGrazia felt this nice kinship with Father Kino, and because DeGrazia felt the same way, he loved the tribes here, and it was just this feeling of just a kinship with Father Kino, and so that's he wanted to be able to treat the Indians in the same way, with kindness.
It's special.
And they did the same for him, it was reciprocal. These were his people. He was an Italian who just loved spending his time with these real people, these Indians that were just they were his people. They were his drinking buddies and the people that he really chose to spend his time with. He didn't really like spending time with the snooty art community and
Well, even his art, when you see the permanent collections in there. I mean, Cabeza de Vaca, we've talked about him before, and he's got that. He's got all the, these series of paintings. And to me, what he was just here, I'm documenting what these people went through, the Spanish, the Mexicans, the Indians. Like, I'm documenting this. You need to know about it and see who they are and the special, like, just even San Xavier del Bac, the mission and the processions there. Everything seems to have a piece, there's always action, but he always seems to bring some kind of light to the people within his art. And it's hard to explain, but just when you look at his art, there's always some glimmer of light. And even if it's a rodeo and there's blood flying with the bulls, which is not my favorite part, but, other people dig it. But he was, I think, really telling a story of the people that wasn't being told at the time, that kind of always just kind of got scuffed over, or it was just part of life. You know what I mean? It was never highlighted.
Yeah, listen. I think his motivation. He had a couple of motivations. One of them, he certainly was a capitalist. He wanted to make money, but
Sure.
he just also loved these people, and it's kind of interesting. Every now and then, we'll have visitors who will walk through the gallery, and I'll get an email or I'll get some kind of message that says, oh, DeGrazia was a white man who made his fortune on the back of the natives, and you need to change all of your names. You can't call them Indians. You can't, and it's like I don't think these people really understand how the tribes here felt about DeGrazia. I mean, they literally loved him for his documenting their history and for his friendship. And it's distressing. It's the new politically correct. It's all got to be. Everything has to be politically correct. And in the time when DeGrazia was alive, things weren't really politically correct. It was different.
No. Yeah,
so it's.
I just think it's amazing for me because I remember my Aunt Mona always bought DeGrazia's cards, and it's so for me it's like I grew up seeing these cards, and I until we connected with the gallery, I just remember the little people in the cards. And the way they were always circling in the dance and celebrating. I remember the coloring and all that. And then when I walked into the gallery that one time, I was like, wow, this is my Aunt Mona's place. It's like Aunt Mona.
There you go.
She always bought his cards. And she would be the last person that I would think would do that. Because she was so uppity. Sorry, Aunt Mona, I know you passed, but you were uppity. And I just, so he touched a lot of people in a lot of different ways in a special way. He really did.
Yeah. And he still is touching people to this day. I mean, people walk into that gallery space, and you just look around and it's just an amazing place. It's just so beautiful and so different. There's just nothing like it anywhere else. So
you're making me homesick, Lance.
Yeah, well, good. Time to get back to where it's warm.
Every time we talk about DeGrazia, and people still, wherever we go, people are like, oh, we know DeGrazia, and I have this piece of DeGrazia, and a lot of them think it's original, and it's not. But they have DeGrazia items so known, and it's beyond the Southwest, because people come to the Southwest and take it home. So no matter where you're going, DeGrazia is everywhere. Like, he's not the most reproduced artist for, not being everywhere, And then, we still get emails. I know you get contacted all the time with people going, he's my brother.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of, listen, if I leave town, it doesn't matter where I go. If I go to the West Coast, I walk into my cousin's house and it's on her refrigerator and it's on her wall, and I go to New York and it's people have it there. It's I can't escape it. It's everywhere.
He's everywhere. All right. So one other exhibit that is happening now that I want to bring up too. So we talked about the procession art, and then also the rock talk. So the prehistoric art. That's fascinating. I really want to see that. We better get our butts there sooner than later, right? But the other one is DeGrazia's Ballet. So this is interesting. So this was done between 1950 and 61. So a series of watercolors, drawings, paintings, all about classical and modern ballet. So that's interesting. So was he interested in dance and the movement? Because we know music. He's a musician, so he must have just really that had to be an inspiration.
You know what?
The actual body movement.
He was intrigued. He was intrigued by all the arts, and Mrs. DeGrazia, Marion DeGrazia, was a fan of the ballet, as she was the opera. And you know, he saw this beautiful, graceful movement in the ballet, and he painted it. This is what he did. This was all in the early 1950s. It's really not. It's not his typical work. You just go, wow, DeGrazia did the ballet, and it's quite unique. It's very different, and it's definitely not on the backs of the tribes. It's just not his typical work. So people that accuse him of making all his money on the backs of the Indians should take a little time and look at the ballet.
There you go. You know, exactly. But I mean, he really just did so much on education. I just even watching. You know, one of the things I always want people when they go to the gallery to go watch the movie. Go do that. So you get a better understanding of him too. And when you're viewing his art. I think that movie. Can people buy that? Do you have that on like disc or something that people can buy?
It's
cool.
a University of Arizona documentary that was done in 1976, and it is quite interesting. Hearing him talk about his art and talk about his gallery, and it's very fascinating.
And then also being done at that point, to me, is really cool, like in the 70s, right? That's also another thing, the documentary being done then. Like, you don't see it that way anymore. Like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those, it's classic. It's a classic. It's like when you go to national parks, you watch the movies, see what the park is about, and the documentaries, to me, it's like, that's a whole other piece of art in itself. You know what I mean? It just is. It just,
right.
Yeah, everyone's got to see that. And then, of course, you can go to DeGrazia.org, by the way, everybody. There's a whole online gift shop like there is a store, in the gallery. You can go in to the shop there. And, when it's the holiday season, you can't go wrong. You've got Christmas cards like we were talking about that are really fun. And you've got all kinds of items for your home, for Christmas trees. You have ornaments, calendars for 2023. You got everything. I mean, really, you could just go shop there and get on with it. If you want to give gifts of Southwest, right? That would be the thing.
I think everybody should. I think that's what everybody should do.
I'm just saying. I'm just pushing it. I like to push things.
Right.
that are good. That are good for us. That are good for us. So the other thing, too, the little gallery, there's a bunch of artists coming in and out. They're visiting artists. Happens every year from November through April. So I encourage you, again, go to DeGrazia.org. There's a list of the artists. Got everyone from doing something from like oil pastels to mixed media, paintings, portraits, landscapes, ceramic art, abstracts. I mean, it's all there going all the way through April 7th. You can go see new artists in the little gallery. And the little gallery is so cool. It's cozy in there, man. I love going in there. It's like it's a unique art space, and so
and
check that out.
The artists are usually very good, also.
And they come from all over. I remember the last time people coming from out of state.
Yeah, no, there are some people that come from out of state. We try to keep it local, but sometimes artists show up that special work, and we want to encourage them and. Get them selling their work and being real artists.
Cool. Nancy, we need to go back. I want to go home.
I know. I'm homesick.
I know. It's terrible. We do a show with Peggy Viandaka every first Wednesday, and she owns, her and her husband Kurt own LDV Winery. So their winery is in, the tasting room is in Scottsdale, and then the winery is in the Chiricahua Mountains. And every time she's on the show, I'm just like, between Peggy and Lance, you're killing us. Like, we need to come home, and we are. We're going to be home in spring and then in fall next year. But it's like there's something that you can never escape the desert. Once that Sonoran dirt gets under your fingernails, it's like Katharine Hepburn, dusty fingernails.
Space. It's the space, the wide open spaces.
Yeah, I don't think it's different. And I, you know, the artists that move to the desert, they do it for a reason. And DeGrazia definitely captures that, you know, he really does. But I want to go back to the people, Lance, because you've got the annual La Fiesta De Guadalupe happening December 11th. It's been on hold for a while because of COVID, right? You didn't do it yet. Did you do it last year?
No. I think we've missed 3 years, at least 2, but maybe probably 3. We're hopefully going to bring it back this year, and everything hopefully will work out okay. No COVID or less COVID. We're going to have our entertainment all day. There's going to be food out there all day, and the gallery, of course. You come in the gallery and look around. It's a free day, so everybody can come in the gallery for free, and it's going to be a really nice event. And Domingo is playing. His band will be playing in the afternoon.
Oh,
Domingo
cool.
DeGrazia's son.
That's awesome. Awesome. And everyone, he is an amazing guitarist. It's like it runs in the family, you know, the musical genes. It really does, and art. And but you have mariachi bands, don't you, too, and folklorico dancers? Yeah, we have mariachis, and we have kids, the ballet folklorico, the kids dance. We have the deer dancers from the Yaqui village come out, and they do their deer dance. Nice. So it's a full day of different events going on all day. Now, what about the food? Do you have local food? Because again, you're going to make us like homesick now if you even say the word taco or fried bread. We try to get one of the tribes to come out, whether it's the Yaquis or the Tohono O'odham. We try to get somebody to come out and cook some real food, and then a few food trucks will be out there. But there's all kinds of food that'll be out there. So I was going to say, that's cool. That food trucks, you've got art, you've got music, you've got entertainment, and it's going to be a fiesta at the DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun. And again, it's 10 acres. And you know what I meant to add too when we were talking about the building of the gallery is there's the nuns' quarters. That's not really open to the public, but the nuns' quarters. I know. I think it's haunted, Lance. I think the nuns' quarters are haunted. No, it's not haunted. It's just a nice little building in the back where the Benedictine and the Franciscan nuns used to come visit DeGrazia from Tucson and from California, and he would let them stay there, and he would paint on the doors on the inside, and they would all sign their names on the wall. So cool. That's cool. What that is. That's cool. You know, we were talking about DeGrazia on a show just the other day about him being so smart about, there's people that do prints, but like he had a collective where people were reproducing his art, so it was still hand done, right, in a way. It's like it was still being, so they were taking his designs, especially for textile, right? So other artists would come in and reproduce his work. It was all kinds of things. That was one of the reasons that DeGrazia was so criticized, was that because they reproduced inexpensive items to sell in the gift shop. They weren't originals. They were copies, and they were prints, and they were but it just made it possible for the regular person, the regular tourist, to buy something that didn't cost them thousands of dollars, and people really appreciated that. They all wanted something from DeGrazia, but not everybody can afford an original oil or a watercolor, and right.
So, you know, he had a guild of artists, about a dozen artists that reproduced stuff for in silver and in resin and, you know, all kinds of different things, enamel, and they were all sold in the gift shop.
You know, it's interesting with artists because they're painting to get their ideas and their words out. But then, if you go into the gallery mode, now it becomes something for the wealthy. And that is really kind of contradictory because getting the word out to the wealthy sometimes doesn't do as much as getting the word out to the masses of people that are affected by things on a daily basis. So, you know, it seems like you're trying to get the word out to the masses, words of hope, words of change, words, whatever they are, you know, like let's fix this, let's fix that, or have you looked at this, have you looked at that? And they only can end up with the wealthy, which is almost like putting them in a closet, you know?
Yeah, well, he was really an artist of the people. It was the people that made him what he was. It wasn't the elite. You know, everybody, all of those people worked against him, but the regular rank and file people came by the thousands to visit him, and that made him who he was.
And that's what a true artist wants. They want to speak to the people, not a select few. You know, I don't know where that ever came about where, you know, I understand why original paintings are expensive. I get that. But it should never be beyond the range of normal, average people to appreciate and see art and understand it. So I love what he did. I actually really admire what he did with having other artists make copies and prints. I really do. I think that was awesome.
They all do it now. They all criticized him for it in the past, and they all do the same thing. But they do it
now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're all making money. They're all making money, and that's I guess that's
you know, there's an
bottom
apprenticeship
line
that goes with that. In the arts, you copy people to figure out and learn and be inspired, and then you find your own thing later. So there's something to what he was doing. It's almost like an apprenticeship. That's why I go back to his time in Italy. I find this interesting. And this, even when he was an apprentice with Rivera and Orozco, that, you know, that he was probably copying them too at one point, like having to follow in their footsteps and then branch out on his own. That is how apprenticeship works and learning. And so I think that's what's so, you know, Mexico has ancient arts like Italy and Spain and Greece, and I think that sometimes we forget that here in North America, and Mexico is part of North America, everyone. They are connected with us, and he did a good job of later bringing back the importance of that connection of Mexico to, you know, United States, let's put it that way, and tying it all back in. And so I don't know, he's a visionary too, and connected and smart businessman, smart. We like that about him, you know. So I think it's just fascinating. I wish we knew more about his time in Italy, about what he learned there, because I just have a feeling that it inspired a lot more than what we think, you know.
I think you're right. You know, I mean, he was a young man. He was a young kid and a young teenager, but I think it really did influence him.
I agree. I agree. I know it's everyone. You just got to go to the gallery again. It's DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun in Tucson, Arizona. And hey, Tucson in winter again is magical. And if it does snow, there's nothing like seeing saguaro cactus in the snow, right?
That's
awesome. It's magical. And the gallery's
pretty amazing.
Cool in the snow, you know, with the adobe. That's cool.
Yeah, it does. I don't think we're going to get any this year.
Oh, well,
Well, thanks, Lance.
You're welcome.
You know,
We can live without the snow.
Yeah. Well, we're going to close today's show with the song "Please Remember Me," which is the title track to the album. This is lost music, lost manuscripts that you guys found in the gallery one day, right? And there was an exhibit about it, and then a CD put together. And Domingo DeGrazia, his son, was instrumental, right? And who else was on the album for "Please Remember Me"?
That was the Tucson Jazz Academy arranged it all, and Domingo played on it with them.
It's amazing. You're going to go get it at DeGrazia.org. Again, gifts if you go online. Even better, go to the gallery if you can. Again, in Tucson, Arizona. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Tucson Dude. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Nice to
Happy
talk
holidays,
to you again.
Lance.
Yeah.
Thank you. Same to you.